Welcome to week 7. My name is Kiva and this week's topic is Indigenous approaches to environmental management. Engaging with Indigenous communities offers opportunities to adopt holistic and sustainable practices. Indigenous groups often hold deep connections to land and nature with knowledge systems developed over millennia that provide context-specific insights which can complement modern scientific approaches. Groups worldwide hold ecological knowledge finely tuned to their unique environments, climates, resources, and ecosystems. Despite colonization introducing foreign species and land management techniques that often disrupt a delicate natural balance, many Indigenous people retain complex localized understanding of their ancestral lands, seas, and freshwater systems, allowing them to maintain ecological stewardship. Engagement with Indigenous communities in environmental management fosters ecological conservation. Indigenous ecological knowledge systems are deeply connected to biodiversity and ecosystem health. Aboriginal Australians' understanding of seasonal cycles and fire management, for example, right-way fire techniques, maintain ecological balance, promote regeneration, and prevent destructive wildfires, showcasing how traditional methods support ecological resilience. Combining Indigenous ecological knowledge systems with Western scientific approaches offers strategies for tackling wicked problems. Indigenous methods based on generations of observation, practice-based methods, have adapted continually over the local context over time. Alignment with modern environmental frameworks can create adaptable and resilient solutions. These synergies foster long-term sustainability by blending traditional wisdom with contemporary science. Indigenous environmental management can also deliver socioeconomic benefits. Programs such as Australia's Savannah Burning Projects outlines how Indigenous knowledge has been successfully integrated. It has not only reduced environmental degradation and assisted in mitigating climate change, it also provides economic opportunities through mechanisms such as carbon credits, supporting both environmental and cultural sustainability. Collaborative management frameworks where Indigenous people co-lead conservation have been found to be highly effective in increasing biodiversity outcomes. As outlined by Robinson et al. 2005, the co-management of feral animals between Indigenous groups and the Australian government led to successful conservation strategies. Collaboration empowered Indigenous communities while ensuring increased culturally informed environmental stewardship. Authentic engagement with Indigenous peoples requires moving beyond simple consultation. It requires co-governance. Indigenous communities must play a central role in the decision-making process, ensuring that their knowledge and values inform the direction of the environmental policies. Co-management strategies should be initialised with areas of mutual agreement and cautiously address more contentious issues. This approach allows for the incorporation of Indigenous perspectives in a way that fosters trust, respect, and sustainable outcomes. Engaging Indigenous peoples authentically means addressing historical power imbalances. Co-management frameworks like those in the Kakadu National Park, where Indigenous peoples share in decision-making authority with governmental bodies, offer a path forwards. Acknowledging Indigenous research methodologies and generating a culturally safe space for Indigenous peoples to be part of decision-making is fundamental moving forwards. Respect for Indigenous protocols is essential in environmental decision-making, encouraging a shift in thinking from a largely anthropocentric post-colonial Australia towards an ecocentric Indigenous perspective of caring for country is essential to engage authentically and build trusting and transparent networks with Indigenous stakeholders. Dominantly within ecocentric paradigms, Aboriginal fire and water management practices are deeply rooted in their cultural heritage and must be integrated into environmental governance structures to create psychological safe spaces for authentic engagement. The concept of healthy country, healthy people is central to the traditional Indigenous environmental management approach of caring for country. Environmental management is closely linked to environmental justice. It rectifies historical injustices by recognising Indigenous people's rights to the land, ensuring that they play a leading role in the stewardship of natural resources. Environmental justice involves restoring Indigenous sovereignty over land and resources. Indigenous practices often align with the principles of sustainability, creating a dual benefit for both environmental health and empowerment of Indigenous communities. For this tutorial is based on the Martu people's use of fire management in the Durba Hills in Australia's spinifex deserts in Western Australia. Spinifex grass occupies 22% of Australia's deserts. In post-colonial times in Australia, traditional burning practices were suppressed and forest structures changed, resulting in excess biofuel and may, along with climate change, have increased the size and intensity of wildfires. Martu fire management is a contemporary case of successful Indigenous environmental management. Research articles that have informed my tutorial include Ruscoladas Alvarez et al. 2023, Boyrell 2020, and Yates 2023. The Martu people of Western Australia have reintroduced traditional fire management practices known as right-way burning, which maintain biodiversity, reduce wildfire risks, and strengthen cultural practices. The rejuvenated Indigenous fire management process involves strategically burning the landscape in a mosaic pattern, creating a patchwork of vegetation, which reduces the risk of late season wildfires while enhancing the regeneration of key plant species. It has led to tangible environmental improvements such as healthier ecosystems, reduced fire intensity. Monitoring data reveals that an increased biodiversity and improved landscape resilience. The project can be attributed to several factors: authentic Indigenous leadership in decision-making, recognition of the people's lands rights, and integration of traditional practices into modern frameworks. Incentivising fire management through carbon credits, such as the savanna burning projects in the northern region of Western Australia and Northern Territory, with a potential expansion into northern Queensland, has led to significant environmental and economic benefits. These projects reduce overall greenhouse gas emissions and provide Indigenous communities with financial rewards, supporting both cultural and ecological objectives. This demonstrates how traditional ecological knowledge can guide contemporary fire management. The broader implications of Indigenous knowledge systems extend far beyond fire management. The Marto's controlled burns create a mosaic of habitats, promoting species diversity while controlling fuel loads. This case illustrates how Indigenous fire practices not only prevent large-scale fires, but also maintain ecological integrity over vast deserts. Traditional Indigenous approaches to land and water use, such as the co-development of Indigenous seasonal calendar, offer holistic solutions to resource management that respect the cycles of nature. Moving towards inclusive environmental governance requires co-management and recognition of Indigenous land rights. By integrating Indigenous leadership into environmental frameworks, sustainable solutions can be created to address both ecological and social justice issues. In conclusion, Indigenous approaches to environmental management offer invaluable insights for sustainable resource use. By engaging authentically and not just merely in a tokenistic way with Indigenous groups, more resilient ecosystems can be fostered, historical injustices can be addressed, and a more equitable and sustainable future can be created. I hope my presentation has increased your appreciation of Indigenous approaches to environmental management and that it has initiated some thoughts about future opportunities for holistic sustainable practices incorporating Indigenous knowledge systems. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to discussing the tutorial questions that I have posted in Week 7 Group M discussion board.